What's up, everybody? In this video, I'll be showing you how you can wholesale a property with a tenant in place, and make sure you stick through to the end because I'm going to give you two scenarios, one with a good tenant, one with a bad tenant, and I'm going to show you how you can pull a tired landlord list for free or how you can use a paid service to get a tired landlord list as well. Let's get into it. So in this first scenario, let's say that we have a good tenant in place. What you'll need to do, you'll just need to gather all the information on the property, such as the property condition. You need to know what needs to be repaired in the property to bring it to 2022 standards. And another thing that would be very, very important to the buyer is the tenant's current situation. So you need to know the tenant's availability. So if you agree to a price with the seller, you need to be able to get your buyers in, and you'll need to be able to get in yourself so you can get pictures of the property so you can market the property to your buyers. Another thing that's important when it comes to the tenant is the tenant currently on a month-to-month lease or a long-term lease such as a 12-month lease. The reason why that is important because that's going to be ideal for certain buyers. Most buyers are going to want a property that's either vacant or either has a tenant that's on a month-to-month lease, because whenever they purchase the property, they want to be able to get a tenant a 30 to 60 day notice so that they can vacate the property and they can get in and fix it up or do whatever they want to do to the property. The last thing that's very important is if the tenant has somewhere to go. You don't want to just put the tenant out because that's an unethical thing to do. You want to make sure that the tenant has somewhere to go because that's just the right thing to do. And 9 times out of 10, if you have other people that is competing with you to get this property, that's going to separate you from a lot of other wholesalers out here because you show that you're actually a human being. Now, the availability part when it comes down to the tenant is important because once you get your pictures and you send it out to your buyers, you will need to get your buyers into the property so that they can verify the condition for themselves and they can get a final repair estimate together of how much it will cost to bring the property up to current year's condition. So in a situation where the seller is actually communicating with the tenant and letting them know that they are going to sell a property, it's going to be pretty easy for you to get your buyers into the property. Now, if you have a situation where the seller is not communicating with the tenant and letting the tenant know that they're getting ready to sell the property, you got to get a little bit more creative in a situation like that. You may have to communicate with the tenant yourself and build rapport with the tenant yourself and let the tenant know, hey, I'm coming over here for John or whoever the seller is. I'm coming in to see what needs to be repaired. We want to make sure that this is continue to be a livable condition for you, and whatever needs to be fixed, we'll fix it up. You let us know anything that needs to be fixed. We'll add that to the list too. And I'm going to just get a couple of my contractors in to get a final repair estimate for everything. That's one way you can get your buyers into the property without the tenant knowing that the seller is trying to sell. So you just have to be creative in a situation like that. But most of the time with a good tenant, you won't have any issues. Now, if you're enjoying the content, please just hit the like button, subscribe, and click the notification bell, and leave a comment down below letting me know, have you had bad tenants in the past or good tenants in the past to work with when it came down to wholesaling your deals? Now let's get to the second scenario. Scenario 2, the bad tenant. So you still will handle this the way you would handle the first scenario, but you definitely have to get a little bit more creative with a bad tenant. But the very first thing you need to do, gather all the information on the property, such as the property condition, what needs to be repaired, and you need to figure out what the tenant situation is. You need to see when the last time they paid rent. 9 times out of 10, they haven't paid rent in the past few months. You need to see if they are in communication with the tenant, because 9 times out of 10, that relationship with the tenant probably went south and they haven't spoke with the tenant in months or weeks. So in a situation like that, you need to see if the seller will be willing to give you the tenant's phone number so you can reach out to the tenant yourself. And what I would do in this situation, I would go knock on the property door to speak directly with the tenant. Now, do that at your own risk. Make sure you be aware of your surroundings. But that's just what I would do because I want to talk to the tenant directly to see what's going on. You'll be able to build rapport with the seller and the tenant, figure out what caused their relationship to go south. And in the process, 9 times out of 10, it's going to take money to get the tenant to move. But if the tenant see that you actually care about their situation and you want to help them get out of the property because you letting them know that you're going to purchase in the next 30 days, but you want to make sure that they have somewhere to go. And if they don't decide to go, you have to go through the eviction process and they won't get anything. I'm not talking about the tenant is going to take money. So with that being said, you can offer the cash for keys method. So the cash for keys method is basically offering the tenant cash to vacate the property before the closing. Now, in a situation like that, especially if you're not going to be providing the funds, you need to make sure that you have a solid buyer in place for this scenario. You need to make sure you have a solid buyer in place for the first scenario as well too. But this scenario is very important because if you offering cash for keys and you don't have a solid buyer, then you having a tenant prepared to move out of the property and you don't have the money to pay them. So you definitely have to be careful with that. Now, in the process of building rapport with the tenant, if the buyer knows that there's a bad tenant in place, they will want that tenant to be out of that property before the closing. Now, if you are able to negotiate an even deeper discount for the buyer, then they may be willing to take the risk and be willing to keep the tenant in place until they'll be able to evict them. And you know, that situation may take a couple of months to actually be done, but at a deeper discount, then it actually will make sense. But in that scenario, the ideal thing to do is offer the cash for keys to get the tenant out of the property so that the buyer can get in, do their due diligence, get the property fixed up, and get the property on the market or get a good tenant in place. But those are the two scenarios. And now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna show you how you can actually find a tired landlord list for free. And I'm gonna give you my secret list that you'll be able to find tired landlords on, and it'll be ideal, especially if you have a team that's making calls for you and you need more data. This is how I build free eviction lists at the courthouse, and it's the freshest data that you can possibly get because it's coming directly from the courthouse, and I'm blurring out certain sections on here, but you'll actually be able to see that there's a plaintiff and there's a defendant. So you'll be able to see that the seller name is available and the tenant name is available. And guess what? You don't have to skip trace because the phone numbers are available for you on the document. This is how you can build a tired landlord list for free. Now, every landlord may not be tired. They may just want to get the tenant out, so they file for eviction. But this is a good place to start. Now, what I'm going to do next is hop into my computer and show you how you can use a paid service to find tired landlords, and I'm going to give you that secret list as well too to finding tired landlords. Let's get into my computer now. All right, so now that we are in my computer, what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you how you can pull a tired landlord list inside of PropStream. So the first thing I did was put in my county, and if you go to the quick list choices, you can go to tired landlords. Owner occupied, we're going to change that to no, just to be on the safe side, even though it's pretty much going to be in there already for you. We're going to go to the classifications. We're going to check residential, property types, single family, condo, multifamily 2 to 4. We're going to go to MLS status tab, on market, no. We're going to go to ownership info. Years of ownership, I normally do at least 5. You can do what you want. I feel like doing at least 5 years pretty much lets you know that this person didn't recently purchase the property to fix and flip. So that's why I normally do a minimum of 5. Now I'm going to go to owner type, and I'm going to select individual because we want individual owners, not corporate owners. Now we're going to go to the equity info tab, and the estimated value, we're going to change that to $350,000 max because we don't want to be marketing to $500,000 or $1 million properties because cash buyers don't really go after those type of properties. And then the estimated equity, depending on your level of confidence with subject to or seller finance deals, I would go and put in 100% equity as the minimum, so that you know that the property is free and clear. And look, you have a list of 4,157 properties that may be potential tired landlords. So that's how you can build a tired landlord list on a paid service such as PropStream. If you are interested, please check out the link below. You will receive a 7-day free trial. And let's get into the secret list. All right, so now that we back into my computer, let's get into this secret list. So we're gonna use the same county, Mecklenburg County, and we're gonna go into the filters. Now, this list may have tired landlords on it, but then it may not. But the good part about it is you're dealing with homeowners that do not live in the property, and it's going to be a bigger list in a situation where you may have a team in place that's making calls for you and they're running through the data. You may run into an opportunity where some of the sellers that's on this particular list may be tired landlords. So let's get into the list. Very first thing we're going to do, owner occupied, no. So that's going to automatically make this an absentee list. The classification, we're going to change it to residential, single family, condo, multifamily 2 to 4. MLS status, on market, no. Owner type, individual. We're gonna go down here to the equity info tab. Max estimated value, $350,000. Estimated equity percentage, depending on what type of properties you wanna go after. We're gonna give it 100% equity. So now you see you have 11,770 properties that you can export, skip trace for a small team that you may have. But if you wanted to sniper down because it's just you can go in here and add that. You can say, hey, I want an absentee vacant list, and that's going to bring it down to 378 records, which is pretty slim. But you can get creative with it. You can go to ownership info. You can say you want the homeowner to be out of county. That's going to bring it down to 1,800. That's something that you for yourself can work on as a one-person operation. But if you have a team, it'll be ideal to get this absentee owner list and market to this list, because 9 times out of 10, you're going to run into some tired landlords on this list. I hope this content was helpful for you. And if you want to learn more about wholesaling real estate, check out my playlist here, and I'll see you next time.